What's up, everyone? I'm Wayward Jessica, and tonight we are talking about transracial adoptees. Um, I have seen this back and forth on TikTok for about a year now, and I can kind of sympathize being a Black woman who grew up in an all white household, didn't know my racial identity until I was 12 years old. Um, but at the same time, it's two completely different things, two completely different experiences. And here tonight to talk to us about that, returning once again, is my girl Jessie Lee. How you doing, sweetheart?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I don't know why I'm
Yes.
singing.
Look, because
I
that's your
don't even
thing.
know what this is. No, this is from my mother. This is my
Put your
mother.
hands in the air if you just
This,
don't care. It's
this.
okay. It's
I'm
okay.
gonna channel my mom. She did this stuff. Maybe
Look,
that's why I know the dance.
everybody here has a white parent. So we get it. We get it.
This
Okay.
is all my mother.
Randomly in this live, we might break out with the YMCA. You never know what's gonna happen, but it's all
Or
right.
this one. This one. This is a very
The
classic.
Cabbage Patch.
This is what we do.
Look, okay. And as you don't know, and tonight we are definitely on CPT. That's my fault. You can blame me, at me. I don't give a fuck. And also we have Joanna, who has been my friend for quite some time. Joanna, how you doing, sweetheart?
I'm doing good. Doing good.
Good,
Ugh.
good. Okay, so for the people who are joining us tonight, I am going to have y'all introduce yourselves. Tell me your name. What do you do? If you feel comfortable telling us your racial identity and the racial identity of your adoptive parents, and give me your three favorite musicals, because I know everybody here loves musicals. Who want to go first? Who want to introduce themselves first? I know Joanna over here sitting here thinking with her Ravenclaw brain. She's like, "Oh no, I gotta narrow them down. I gotta narrow them down."
Well,
Go
I'll
ahead,
go.
Jesse.
I'll go. All right, everybody. Hello, my name is Jessie Lee _93. My profession, I'm a nanny. I love working with kids. I've worked with kids for the past 10 years. It's been the best career ever. I'm Black, and my parents are both white. My dad is actually half Czechoslovakian and then half English, British, but white. And I also have a brother, an adoptive brother, who's from South America, Peru specifically. And what was the last one? Favorite musicals? Three favorite musicals? Okay. Well, it's funny that you mentioned musicals because my parents worked on and off Broadway for 11 years. And they didn't perform.
No way.
Yes, they did tech on and off Broadway. So I was raised in a theater family. So it's narrowing down musicals is a little bit hard, but I love Sondheim, rest in power. But probably my favorite Stephen Sondheim show and one of my favorite top three musicals is definitely Sweeney Todd. The next one is Into the Woods. I absolutely love Into the Woods. And for my third, man, I think I'm going to go old school, and a funny thing happened on the way to the forum. That's all Sondheim, but I like those.
I never heard of that last one.
You need to see it with Zero Mostel. Or is that his name? Zero Mostel or Montel? I can't remember. Zero Mostel or Montel. But he's an amazing comedic actor. He did Broadway. He played Tevye in Fiddler on the Roof on Broadway. He's phenomenal. He was right at the height of musicals at the same time as Yul Brynner. So when he did The King and I and all that fun stuff. So anyway.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Look, I just know that backstage when we're done with this, these ladies are going to go ahead and give me another education, not only about being a transracial adoptee, but also about musicals, because apparently I don't know enough. I definitely don't know enough because I didn't understand half of the last part of what Jesse just said. Joanna, you want to go ahead, introduce yourself, give us your name, your racial identity, that of your adoptive parents, and your three favorite musicals.
Hi, I'm Johanna. I am Korean. I was born in Korea and adopted to the United States, and my mom and dad are white. And my 3 favorite musicals. Oh gosh. Okay, so I am also I do like I'm a dancer. So of course musicals like love them. My number 1 is also Sweeney Todd. Um I've done it twice actually. I did it 2 times in high school. Yeah. Yeah. So it is like it when I found out Sondheim, my first musical that I ever did, first of all, was Into the Woods. And so that one also has a special place in my heart. So Sondheim, like when I found out he passed, it crushed me. It crushed me big time. So number 1 is definitely Sweeney Todd. Number 2, I have to say is Sideshow. And that is like a deep cut a little bit because it had a run in like early 90s and then a revival. I do not like the revival. I like the original. Because some of the words changed in the revival, and I understand why. Because we have to be more PC. However, I feel like it lost some of its flair with the revival. And my third one, Spring Awakening. I love Spring Awakening. It has a near and dear place in my heart. I also love it was hard because it was between that one or something or Fosse, not even just something Fosse, but Fosse the musical. Yes.
Fosse. I love Fosse. Ah! Okay.
Look, I'm living for the fangirling in this live right now. I'm living for it. Absolutely. So I would have to say that my top 3, well, first of all, I'm Jessica, for anybody new that's watching. I'm a mom, I'm an activist, and about to be full-time student. My top 3 musicals, Rent is number 1. And I'm gonna be like the basic bitch with the Starbucks cup compared to these ladies over here because I do not have that much experience with theater. I just really love singing, even though I suck at it. So Rent is my number 1. Wicked is my number 2. And you know what? This actually rose quite to the like it rose quite to the top really quickly. I loved Into the Heights.
In the Heights?
In the Heights, yes. I'm
Phenomenal.
absolutely obsessed with it.
I saw it on Broadway when I went to New York for my senior trip, and Corbin Bleu from High School Musical played Usnavi.
No.
So jealous.
Yes.
So jealous.
He did a fantastic job, by the way. And I was past all that High School Musical shit. I was too grown for that, so I was hating on it. And then I saw Corbin Bleu was in it, and I was like, and then he was on stage, and I was like, and so I was in the long ass line to the ladies' room during intermission, and I was kikiing with the girls in line. I was just like, yo, Corbin Bleu, he fine. Like he killing it. Like he's amazing.
He grew up.
And he performs at the Muni out here in St. Louis all the time. All the time. The Muni is an amazing thing that happens out here in St. Louis where you can go and see theater all summer. All summer.
So Jesse's telling me that I need to move to St. Louis. So if y'all don't hear from me, that's where I'm at.
Okay. We're gonna keep talking. If we keep talking about musicals, we're not even gonna talk about
I know. So I have kind of been following what's been talked about by transracial adoptees on TikTok, and obviously I've been listening to you, Joanna, and you, Jesse, because we talk off app. And I have noticed that there is a general consensus that a lot of people don't understand, and it's that adoption, no matter how the outcome is a traumatic experience for the child. Do you guys kind of want to elaborate on that a little bit and describe how that is a traumatic experience for people who may not understand? Joanna, why don't you go first?
Yeah, okay. So, for those of you who may not have an understanding of it. When a child is taken away from their mother, and in a lot of cases when it comes to adoption, it's instant. The moment the baby is born, there is no skin to skin, there's no close contact, there's no holding. So that automatically cuts a tie in there. I believe it's actually something that happens even in the working of the brain when we're taken out and away. um and in most cases it's instant. There isn't much bonding. And then for those of us who are older, and especially in my particular case, um I didn't necessarily have caregivers right away. I went to an orphanage. So then there's all of these babies, all of these children at one time being cared for by the same people. And that again is traumatic because for the parents out there who have looked into the cry it out method and the problems with it that were found by some of the psychologists. Now that's debatable in that sense, and I understand that, but there is some understanding that when a baby cries, there's all that cortisol in their brain, and of course, then you're adding more to it. Now, take them out of their culture, take them out of their what is their culture, what is their heritage, all of that, put them into a new one, and then you have another moment of trauma. And for some children, they adjust well and it's fine. And for others, it is crazy insane because now you have this extra identity that you don't know about that you're dealing with. And it's tough because you're sitting there trying to, okay, you have, and then you don't know who you can trust. You don't know, even if you're in foster parents, you're going around different places before you end up with the adopted parent. So a lot of it is just a lot of loss at one point in so early on that it makes like your brain just the wires and stuff in it differently.
It would you say that it literally can rewire someone's thought process, whether they're older or whether it's right when you're a newborn? The trauma of being ripped from your culture, your birth parent, because you in the womb you hear the same voice, over and over again, and then all of a sudden you don't hear the same voice, you don't feel the same heartbeat. So would you say that rewires a person's thinking or their
Oh,
brain?
absolutely. And it can take time for that child to trust the parents once they're in their care because they don't know who they are. And
Okay.
depending on age, that also is going to be a factor too.
Okay. Jesse, do you want to go ahead and give us your take?
Yeah. So for my experience, my adoption was private. So I know nothing about my biological parents other than I'm child number 7. They set up me and my older brother or sibling up for adoption. And my biological father is 6'4", and my biological mother is 5'8", and she looked good after having me, number 7. That's all I know. So I was not adopted until I was 7 months old. So I spent the first 7 months of my life in a children's ward. And so that what we were saying earlier about being ripped away, that is 110% true. I was ripped away. There's no contact. I have no idea who my parents are. But from my experience of, I don't even, you don't really remember anything when you're so young. One of my first memories is my parents who I'm with, who are my fucking parents. And let's put that those are my real parents. They are my real parents. And I will refer to them as my real parents. My biological parents are the people who mix the cells to make moi. That's it. So, but my first memory is my real parents. So what I had to go through was finding out from other people that I was different, because I didn't know that I was different. I didn't see any of that difference. I just saw my parents, I just saw my brother, and everything was fine. And it wasn't until outside people, be it immediate family or friends or just people I didn't know, that told me what I am. I will never forget the first day where someone told me, "You're black." And I said, No, I'm not. I'm brown. I have brown skin. And they're like, "No, but you're black. And that lady is white." I literally did not know that I was black. I did not know. I didn't know what it meant. I didn't know I knew nothing about it. So for me, my experience was learning, living life, but then being told by other people what I am, what it is, and then having to process that as while going through the normal steps of childhood development. So that was traumatic, because I, at 5.5 to 6 years old, was going through an identity crisis. I didn't know who I was, what I was, if my parents were my parents, if it was okay, if it was acceptable, or anything like that. And that in itself is traumatic. And then not only is that traumatic, but recognizing that people of my skin tone didn't understand me. Some of them didn't understand me. Some of them they didn't get me. So I felt a sense of othering. And then at the same time, I also thought of myself as different. And I was like, why? Where is the disconnect? Why do I feel so disconnected? So there's that in itself is traumatic, where you're like, but this is what I'm supposed to be. And I'll never forget the day where I came home one day to my parents, and I was just like, "Yo, what's up, Mom?" And my mom was like, "Why are you talking like that?" And I was like, "Well, I'm black, and that's how we're supposed to talk." And she's like, "Now, Jess," I'm like, "We're theater people. We enunciate and we speak this way, and we taught you how to speak this way because it's important for you to be understood. It's important for you to speak clearly." And, very much like that. It wasn't a matter of you're not supposed to talk that way. It's a matter of this is how you are taught how to speak, and we taught you this way. So, where am I going? I don't know, but but it's just.
So it was more about the theater aspect than it was about trying to conform you to whiteness.
Right. It was really more about theater, and it was really more about enunciating. And I can't tell my parent, I can't sit here and confidently say that my parents are the most anti-racist people in the world, because they still have implicit bias that they deal with every fucking day. There were times where I would catch my mom or my dad saying some off-color shit, and I'd be like, "What the fuck? Really?"
Joanna over here nodding her head and raising her eyebrows.
What was it? I was like 13, maybe. See, I remember these things. You remember these things. That's the thing too. Adoptees have really good fucking memories. There's Mika, everybody. So I told you she was going to come in and make an appearance. But I remember I was like 13 years old. We were in the car, and someone cut my mom off. And I was like, "What happened?" I was in the backseat. I was like, "What happened, Mom?" She's like, "Well, I was driving, and then Shanika." And I was like, "Mom." I was like, "Why would you say that?" And she's like, "I'm sorry. You're right. I'm sorry. That was not right." And I'm like, "No,
Mama Lee, no.
It wasn't right. Shanika? Like, what the fuck?" Made me look sideways at her. I was like, "What the fuck?" But I guess if I can tie together the massive adventure we've been on through Jesse's brain, is that for me personally, it was learning every single day and being told by other people that you're different, and then taking that information into my brain and trying to apply it, and just to survive and just to cope with just day-to-day interactions with people.
So let me ask you this. I want to ask both of y'all this, because I saw Joanna nodding her head with a lot of things that you were saying. especially when it came to your parents still have a lot to work on, and they have implicit biases. Would you say that white couples who choose children of color, do you think they are more likely to have racial biases or blind spots? And it's kind of a, would you say that it's kind of a fetishization thing? They want a child of color?
For my parents, they didn't care when they adopted me, because I was also adopted really, really early on. Now, I always knew I was adopted. I actually had a book that they had, like, of course, it was closed adoption, um, very tight fisted closed adoption. Um, but I always knew. I had a book about it. There was that we read when I was growing up. And of course, all of my stuff they had in a box that I could look at when I wanted to. But they always said they didn't care what kind of child, what color, what race the child was, or even what gender. Um, they just wanted to have a baby. They were older, didn't have kids of their own. Um, and I think in some cases there's very that possibility of they want to have a black baby, a brown baby, um, just like there are people who adopt because they want to have a girl or they want to have they don't necessarily, but for my parents, a lot of their biases, especially my father, who got so much better as he got older before he passed. He he definitely, I called him out so many times. And a lot of times when I called him out, I cry because if he could be that way towards a person of color, another person of color who is not um who's not Asian but is black or is, Hispanic or what have you, then what does that say that he could feel about people that are like me? And so I would call him out on it. And I did it a lot. And um he started to understand and started to learn that what he was taught in the 50s and the 60s, because he was born in the late 40s, that he needed to change, that there was a change, and that, that mindset. And he was already an open person, but it was still there. And unfortunately, you know, it's sometimes subconscious, sometimes, you do it consciously. But a lot of times he would say it, and I'd be like, Dad, what did you like? You don't say that. You don't do that. You don't put that in there. Um, but I think the biggest blind spot for my parents, at least in my situation, was that they didn't see me. They would forget that I was Asian.
So it was almost like, would you say that it was almost like it felt like your cultural identity was being erased, not intentionally, but just because they only saw you as their child, not as their Asian child?
Right, yes. Because
Okay.
I was allowed to explore, and like my mom took me to a Korean restaurant that was next to my doctor's office, and like I was still given the chance to experience my culture. But which by that point, by the time I was adopted, that was recommended. There was a point in time where that was not recommended.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, but like with something that happened, the shootings that happened, I think it was back in March in
February or March, I
Georgia.
believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, the spa
My
shootings.
Yes. My mom did not get anything from her. No, no, hey, how are you doing? And I talked to her about it, and she said, "Well, I didn't really think of anything because I don't really see you as that." And I'm like, "Okay, but I am. This face is not white. I don't have your eyes. I don't have your nose. I don't have those features. My features are not your features. So you have to remember that I am afraid. I am scared. There is fear there because if this happened, this person went out and did this to these people who are of the same race as me. What are we saying about, so just because I'm your daughter doesn't mean that I'm not at risk too."
Right. And see, I definitely uh what's the word? Resonate with you on that, because me being predominantly raised by my white mom, when George Floyd happened, it was crickets.
Mhm.
Um Even though I've made my stance very clear, my blackness very clear, my mom didn't think that when I watched that video that I'd see my sons, that I would see my black sons. She didn't
Mhm.
think that when the Breonna Taylor shooting happened that I would see myself. Um, and I've noticed that about white parents. And Jesse, you said that you didn't know you were black for a while. So did you have a similar experience with George Floyd, Jacob Blake, Breonna Taylor, all of that stuff?
It was actually a little bit different. So, first of all, I want to make this clear. I knew I was adopted. I knew, however, brain was like, family, still family. I had all the books. The problem was is that I didn't have representative books. They didn't have a lot of transracial adoptee books back then. I'm a 90s baby, and they still didn't have that. When it comes to implicit bias, yeah, my parents have it. And, they were born 1954, 1957. So they know it. Their parents were racist. My grandmother, I just found out 2 years ago that my grandmother was extremely loved me and my brother. Anyway, more trauma. More fucking trauma. That there you go. There you go, everybody. It's never ending. But for me, I say that a lot. I'm such a Midwestern. For me.
Don't call me out like that. I'm Midwestern too. Don't
You're
do that.
welcome. But I'm like center of the Midwest, St. Louis, like in the middle of it all. Anyway, when I'm gonna go back further. So I knew about Trayvon Martin. I was I had to have been in high school when it happened to Trayvon Martin. And I have to admit, I suffered from internalized racism for a long time. I separated myself from my own people, from my own skin tone, and I purposely othered myself because my parents did try with me to get me in touch with my culture. However, I pushed back. I said no because I didn't want to feel different. I felt like that made me feel different, that I'm not part of the family and that I have to go and accept this other part of me as by means of what? And it was really hard for me. And they tried the same thing with my brother who's Peruvian. Like they had a Peruvian festival out here in St. Louis and we drove out when we moved away. And my brother just sat there the whole time, just like, and we used to be one thing that we used to do, even though this was amazing. My mom ran this, was one of the main leaders of this group out here called International Families. And it was mainly for parents who have adopted nationally and internationally. And we would all get together and it'd be majority white parents, but their children would be from all over the world, all over the country. And you would have, performers from Mexico come in, or performers from Korea come in, performers from India come in, just to bring the culture together. Nothing black, no black, nothing. So there was a little bit of pushback there. Fast forward, I'm going all over the place. So Trayvon Martin happened. I kind of knew about it, but I didn't really think about it. And that's when Black Lives Matter was starting to rumble a little bit. And I was like, nah, I'm not going to say Black Lives Matter. I'm not going to say it. And then Mike Brown happened. And I had just moved to St. Louis 2 months, no, in October. And the announcement about Darren Wilson came out right at Thanksgiving. And I had just moved. And when that happened, that was the first day I said Black Lives Matter with my full fucking chest. And I went out and I watched the city fucking burn. I marched up and down those streets. I was yelling. I was out there. And I told my mom, and this is the first time I ever told, I was like, Mom, I'm going out. And there's nothing you can do to stop me. I'm going out there and I'm going, Black Lives Matter, point blank, period. And my mom said, you're absolutely right. And my dad said, you're absolutely right. And I was like, whoa, like this is kind of crazy. Fast forward, Sandra Bland. When that happened, a week later, I'm smoking a cigarette driving my car. I get pulled over. I get boxed in by 3 cop cars at my job, and I have a cigarette. I throw the cigarette out. They think I stole my car, and as I'm reaching for my wallet, he puts his hand on his gun and almost kills me. Could have killed me in that moment. In front of my job I was working at a preschool. And it just so happened to be the 4th of July celebration. So all the grandmas and grandpas and uncles and everybody watching that happen. That was the most embarrassing thing. So I call my mom, crying, and I tell her about this. Because one thing that never happened for me is I never got to talk about driving while Black. Never got that talk. And I always thought in my brain, especially my young brain, before I even said Black Lives Matter, was like, well, I have white parents, so, and I present the way that I present, so that should be enough. It's not enough. It's never enough. It will not be enough. Not when they view this as a fucking weapon. And when I told my mom about that, my mom, I wish I could find it somewhere deep in the archives of my phone, but she wrote, she's a writer. She's a very gifted writer, wrote this long, like beautiful narrative talking about not just Mike Brown, but Sandra Bland, the shooting that had happened in Texas. And this was years ago. This is like 2014, I think. And talked about me. And she said, but you don't know what my daughter just went through. You don't know that my daughter was pinned by cops, almost had a gun pulled on her. You don't know what she went through in this moment. And as a white mother, and like she went in, she's just like, I could never know what that's like. And I was like, holy, it brought me to fucking tears. And I was like, wow. So my parents, both of my parents are behind me 110%. They support me. They support Black lives. They have been nothing but supportive. Do they still have implicit bias? Yes. And they're doing a lot better. And as they've gotten older, they're both in their 60s, mid to late 60s now. They're still doing the work. They're still working on themselves, which is fucking amazing. And so when Ahmaud happened, George Floyd happened, Breonna Taylor happened, that the summer of 2020 is just unfucking real. Unfucking real. I never thought I would ever have to live. I don't think many of us thought we would ever have to live through that kind of fucking summer. And I don't think anybody who lived through any of the things at the Edmund Pettus Bridge or the massacre have ever thought that they would have to live through those things. My mom was there and called me. She called me every time. And I went to go see her on last Wednesday. And as I'm pulling up, the verdict dropped about Ahmaud. And she was like, she is on it. Both of my parents are on it. So it's been a journey, but my parents are there. And it's pretty freaking great. How long have I been talking?
It sounds, this is my show, so you fucking good.
Okay.
Because look, I wish a bitch would say something about how long any of my fucking panelists talk. And this isn't a conversation for me to center myself around. So if y'all have something to say, y'all have something to say, period. So it sounds like both of y'all ended up having parents who may not have understood your racial and cultural identities, but they are actively trying to understand. And although that not understanding may have done you harm as children, and tell me if I'm wrong, because I'm not trying to speak for y'all, it means a lot that you guys that they're making the effort now that you guys are adults and you have kids. You know, Joanna, you have kids of your own. Jesse, you're helping raise children. So I mean, that in and of itself sounds like a better deal than this guy that Anne has mentioned. What do y'all think about the video on TikTok that had a black man calling another black man a colonizer's pet? So I don't know if you've seen it, but this, do y'all know Modern Warrior?
Yep. Lance. Yep.
Yeah. So Lance does his videos of "Hey colonizer," and this black guy ended up going "Hey land loser," and basically spewed all this white supremacist bullshit. Well, another black man went ahead and got stitched that video and basically said, "You're a colonizer's pet. You were taught. You were adopted by a family of white people, taught uh these tools of white supremacy, and now you spew them out." Because obviously he wasn't brought up being racially or culturally aware. um how do you guys feel about that? Do you feel like that's a dig at him being a transracial adoptee, or and I'm going to have Jesse go first, just for the simple fact of this is talking about something that affects the Black community. But Joanna, I definitely want to hear your side too, because this does involve being a transracial adoptee. So Jesse, what do you think? Is that
Well,
offensive?
that hit me like a fucking knife because growing up, you're told, especially if you're fucking, it doesn't matter. I can only speak on my experience as a black adoptee. It hurts more than anything when you have people say that you don't belong or that you're a traitor. Because first and foremost, I did not choose my parents. I am not a pet. I am not property. I am none of those things. And what I know of my parents specifically is what they went through to bring both me and my brother home. They had to go live in Peru for a little bit. There's an economic crisis going on in Peru. Bombs were going off and they had to run to the courthouse to sign papers to bring my brother home. And for me, in 1993, the judge out here in St. Louis was against transracial families. And he literally said, and I quote to my parents, that doves stay with doves and blackbirds stay with blackbirds. And if you mix, it would muddy the water. It would muddy the water. Called me mud in the water. And the only reason why my parents got to bring me home is because they had my brother already. And he said, well, you've already done it. What's a little more mud? So,
take one ticket to jail, please.
Knowing what my parents went through to love both of my brother and I and to raise us into the people that we are, when I hear people calling someone an adoptee, a pet, you adopt a pet. A pet is something that you do that type of stuff with, not people. You don't do that to people. So for the man who said that to this black adoptee who was completely out of pocket, let's be real, he was out of pocket for what he said to Lance. That's not okay. What is not okay, now when I talk about this black adoptee, sir, you weren't brought up right. You weren't brought up right. And that's unfortunate. You did not get to pick your parents. You did not get to choose your parents. But what you did get to choose was what you wanted to learn after you left the house, where you had the choice to open your mind and to listen and to gain perspective from people. But you've chosen not to, because at the same time, I can empathize, because it's a survival mechanism for a lot of us. You see, we live in code switch. We live in code, which makes us more marketable, likable,
Palatable.
palatable. We play the game. We live the game. We were born and raised in the game. You know, because of the way that I speak, because of the way that I walk, because of the way that I talk, because of all of those things, I am viewed as the good one. I am viewed as the one who will get that job, the one who will do this because it looks good and it looks nice. I was born and I benefit from white privilege, and so does this young man too. The problem is that he has chosen not to get out of that little bubble, little safety box where he knows he will be accepted, but not really. I know that because I was in that fucking box.
I think the reason why he was called this is because during his rant towards Modern Warrior, he grabbed a family photo and showed off his white family.
Yeah.
And he was the only person of color in that photo. He had white siblings, white parents. And I think it was more so that it almost seemed like he was bragging about being tokenized. It almost seemed like he was like, I know, and his username is blackest white guy,
which is fucking wrong. That's an insult. I was called I was called the whitest black girl. I was called an Oreo, and you know what I did? I owned it, and I was like, yeah, I'm an Oreo. Because you know what? That was the one way I could keep fucking friends, and they weren't my fucking friends. And that's what I'm talking about that box, that safety little box that you fucking put yourself in, where you feel like it's a sense of acceptance. And I've seen some of his videos before his account got banned, where he was hating on black people. He was hating on this. Why? Because what he wasn't taught was there's a difference.
But
he wasn't raised in that, and he never. No. I'm not defending him. I'm trying to explain. Yeah, but
here's where I'm going to challenge you a little bit, though.
Go ahead.
As far as I can see how someone would call him a colonizer's pet. I can see how. And I'll be honest. In T. Nathan's video, I said that as well. So right now, I'm going to apologize for offending anyone of the adoptee community. That is not where I was coming from. However, intent does not negate impact. I will be deleting my comment as soon as I'm able to use my phone. Because we're on here on my phone. But I'm just going to say that you specifically said that you lived this experience. But once things started happening in the real world, you started becoming aware. You started educating yourself. So at what point do we stop giving these people a pass?
He's grown. He's grown as fuck. That's the thing. This man is grown as fuck. It'd be one thing if he was 18. It'd be one thing if he was 18 and getting ready to go out into the fucking world. But now that he's grown, he's getting into a habit. Now it's habit. It's no longer, now it's going to be harder for him to get out of this fucking box. He's trapped. He thinks he's getting in the club. He ain't never getting in. And he hasn't realized that. And that's the thing that I've had to learn too. I recognize why I got some pushback from the black community, why they treated me differently is because I was not listening. That's why I got so much tough love, because I didn't understand the prejudice. I didn't understand any of that. I didn't know any of that until I opened my fucking eyes and gained a perspective. And I was like, wow, this makes so much more sense. People perceived me as I was better than them. And I was like, I'm not better than anybody. I'm not trying to be better than anybody. I'm just trying to exist. I'm just trying to be. I don't even know what that means. Now, granted, I'm not going to say I'm the most self-aware person, but I had to go through this every fucking day since I was 5 of understanding all of this. So I've constantly been thinking about it, revamping, like all of it. I'm still going. I'm 28 years old. I'm still fucking going through it. I don't. Do I still suffer from internalized racism? No, I don't. Shh, people, shh, come at me. But anyway, but he is at that point where he's la 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 la. I don't want to hear it, and it doesn't help that his parents raised him that way. And there's also that sense of adoptive children taking after your parents. If you're nothing like the parents that raised you, you feel like they will just abandon you. And that's one of the core things that we fucking feel in our gut, in our heart, in our soul, is abandonment. That is the one thing that constantly is on our mind. We think, we love our parents, but if something happens, we're like, fuck, we were abandoned. We see biological children, biological families, and we just look at it and we think it's beautiful, but at the same time, we're like, fuck me, I wish I had that. And it hurts. And so this kid, this dude, this man, grown-ass man, doesn't want to be ostracized. He's not ostracized right now for being black, right? Because they don't see him as black. They see him as one of the good ones. And he's afraid that he's going to be abandoned when he embraces reality. That's his fucking problem. He's scared. And I can understand that, but at the same time, motherfucker, this is why you're getting all this pushback. This is why at times I can empathize with you, but at the same time, I'm like, bitch, I went through the same motherfucking thing a lot earlier than you did, but you're going to have to learn. You're going to have to learn. You're going to get the heat from all of us. And until you own it and open your fucking eyes and wake the fuck up, then you're going to be on a better path of becoming a better you and understanding yourself. And if that means that your parents fucking abandoned you, that's not a reflection on you. That's on them. That should answer the fucking question that they fucking suck. They're the worst fucking role model you could have ever had.
One more question.
That's who you are. By trying to tell you that you're not something when you are. By trying to misguide you and erase the reality of being a black man in America by saying, but we're white and we raised you this way.
One more question, then I want to go ahead and get to Joanna.
Joanna, my bad.
But no, you're fine. It's something you're passionate about.
I tell you, when I get going, I'm like, you're going to have to like chop the soapbox, burn it. Like, because I'm
look, we don't tone police here. You good. So my one last question to you before we go ahead and get Joanna's perspective is, do you think that maybe he is so anti-black because with him being an adoptee, he might have already feel like he was abandoned by the black community?
Yep.
So it's easier to identify with white people?
Yep.
That's fair.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. Are you kidding me? That's so true. That is so fucking true.
That's
so
fair.
Fucking true. As well, when you grow up in a predominantly white area, you have no cultural mirrors. I grew up in an all-white neighborhood. I didn't have any cultural mirrors. None. Even at the preschool I went to, I was one of the few black children and maybe the only black kid in class. When you have white parents, you go to a white school, rich white school, with maybe one other black family there who has black parents, where's the connection? There is no connection. So you just feel completely disconnected. And then you feel abandoned. And then you feel animosity. You have this built up animosity. Again, it ties right back into just the feeling of being abandoned. It's a very, very deep and broad scope on where it hits you. And with black children adopted by white parents, there's a lot that goes into it. There's so much. I can only speak on my own, but it's hard. It's hard. You know?
Joanna, what do you think from a from a transracial adoptee's perspective, about somebody calling him a colonizer's pet because he's got white parents and he's spewing this white supremacist shit.
Yeah, I have to agree with Jesse on this because as when you're in that situation, like if he has, and obviously he obviously has, he has embodied what they believe. And and this is that, you know, he was raised this way. He was raised in a family who believes this, who believes that. And if he didn't have an outside source to show him that what he was being taught and told, this is your truth, when it's not his truth, but it's their truth that they're putting on him, then you can't say you can't say he's a pet because he's not necessarily on their string. You know, he's not a marionette doll. They're not sitting there, not telling him, you need to say this or you need to do that. He made that video on his own free will. Right? Like, nobody was sitting there saying, you're going to make this video to prove about, no, he made that video on his own free will to do how he felt from what he was taught. And no, we as adoptees are not our parents' pets. We are not. And there are adoptees, domestic and international, transracial and non-transracial, who are rehomed. And that's a different story for another thing. But we are not pets. You do not do that to children. You shouldn't do that to your pets to begin with. But you do not do that to humans. As a human to another human, you should not do that. You shouldn't do it to your animals. You absolutely do not do that to a human. And for him to be told that he is a colonizer's pet, that is minimizing the situation of what is really happening to him and what did happen to him, and the fact that he has not been able to break the cycle and break the hold that they have on him, because his parents, his family, his brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, cousins, whoever in that family, regardless of how he feels, he sits there and goes, I want to find out about my culture. I want to find out about who I am. They should be there 100% for him and back him just like Jesse's family does. But he obviously either wasn't given the opportunity to be shown that this is how this is who you are, or he was ostracized by somebody, and it can take one encounter. All it needs is one encounter, just one, and then you're done. Because not having the ability to see, because who, and then his influences, if he grew up, like Jesse said, in a predominantly white area. I grew up in a very, up until high school, the Asian people I knew were adopted, and their parents were white. And the ones that up until middle school, and the few that I did in middle school, or the few I knew in high school, I wasn't really friends with them, not necessarily because of the differences of, my parents are white. No, it was more because of, friend group situations, but it was still that, there's still a difference between us. There's still that I don't have that situation of, I'm not in that culture. I'm not in this culture. I'm in the white culture. I had to find out and learn about, and I'm still learning about my culture, because I know PA Dutch, and I can cook Um, I can cook the food that I was taught by my grandmother, and it's great, but it's white people food. It's bland. It,
Hey, don't worry. I just learned how to
It
make mac.
lacks
I just
all
learned how
the
to make black people
seasonings.
mac and cheese. I literally just learned like
She
2 months
sent me
ago.
a picture. She's not
I literally
lying. She
just,
sent me a
I
picture.
know how you feel. I literally just learned how to do it.
No, but okay, so I'm going to go ahead and explain my point of view. I and that is in no way discrediting y'all's point of view. I still stand by the fact that I agree with what y'all said. I was wrong and this other person was wrong for calling him that. Just to give a little bit of perspective, just so that the conversation can keep happening off of the live, with people who are watching and stuff like that. So for me, people of color are seen as lesser than by white supremacists, by racists, by bigots. So for me, it was, you're pandering to white supremacy. You're trying to get picked. You want that bone at the end of the day. Like that you're not on the same level as white people as they see it. So you're trying to do whatever you can to get liked, to get the validation. And that's what I meant when I said colonizer's pet. I can't speak for what the other guy meant. That is what I meant. So that's just some clarification there. Do you guys have anything to say to that? Or
I
do
mean,
you want to go ahead and move on?
again, at the same time, I agree that he was out of pocket for what he said. It's
Absolutely.
very clear that he's pandering. It's obvious. At the same time, it's deeper because he's a transracial adoptee.
And see, I never thought of that.
And unless you, yeah, I'm gonna kind of gatekeep here. Unless you know that experience, or you've been through it, or you can even comprehend that, you can't speak on it or understand, or even begin to understand where this guy's coming from. It's deeper than just, oh well, he just got picked. It's a hell of a lot deeper than that, which is why I am able to at the same time understand and kind of empathize with him, because I've been through it. But I'm not going to let him get away with it at this either, because
right. Let it be known right now. None of us are saying that what he said was okay.
110% out of pocket.
None of us.
100%.
We're all saying you a whole ass bitch, sir.
He's a whole motherfucker. Like
we're just talking about the terminology that was used to address you. That's all we're talking about.
Yeah, no.
All of us agree here that you a whole ass bitch and you out of pocket.
Yeah,
let's make that clear.
And let's go a little bit deeper too. There's corruption in the foster care and adoption system.
Absolutely.
I know. I've talked with a few Black adoptees. One in particular, a girl who was raised to be a slave by her white adoptive parents. That happens. Rape happens.
Absolutely.
Physical abuse happens. It is real. And rehoming, just like Joanna said, rehoming happens, where they just don't want you anymore, and they can put you on an ad on Craigslist. I've seen it. An ad on Craigslist. They're like, if you could just rehome her, they literally describe this child like a fucking pet.
Okay.
People will even celebrate gotcha days. That's what you do for your pet. People will celebrate gotcha days for their children, for adoptive children. Gotcha. It's literally
okay.
It's called Gotcha Day.
So now I'm understanding a little bit more. Like, it's kind of like white people don't get to call Black people a coon. Yeah. Non-adopted people don't get to call another adopted person.
And the adoption process isn't like you go to for some people, for some ways it's gotten better. It's not like you go to a kennel and you walk by all the kennels and you wait for the child that looks the cutest and barks at you and all, rolls over on their fucking back for you to bring them fucking home. It's not how it fucking works. For my parents, they were on a waiting list for 3 years. 3 years before a child became available. They'll tell you race, ethnicity, those things. Sometimes they don't, and sometimes they really fuck up. They really fuck up on that part. And that's one of the corruptive things too, is that they'll lie, especially if it is a white passing biracial child. If the child is white passing, they will put down white. They would rather.
Huge fucking issue.
That's a huge fucking issue that not a lot of people talk about. And that's actually, I did a video where this woman was on TikTok showing her one of her foster kids and said the adoptions agency said he was white. What do you think?
I remember that.
And I came in and I said, look, I understand what you were trying to do, which was bring awareness to the corruption that is the foster care. However, why are you asking strangers on the internet to identify the race of your child? I said, clearly it was a failure on the adoption and foster care industry for doing that. They whitewashed the shit out of it. And all you had to do was say they lied. You shouldn't have to mention, what are you bringing strangers into your family like that for? That's not right. That's wrong. You know, things like that happen, you know?
You made it like she made it almost, from me watching the video as an outsider looking in, it made it seem like she was like, because she showed her white child too. So it was like, this is what I ordered versus this is what I got. And it's like,
yeah,
that wasn't it.
And there are, you know, again, and then there was a video that I did way back in the beginning of my TikTok days where this woman did this joke of, you know how they say once you go black, you never go back? She had 4 children, right? She said, you know how you say one white child walks by, once you go black, picked up the black adopted child, you never go back. At the end was a white child. And she's like, yeah, about that. And then the next day was like, I love my child.
Do you though, bitch?
My child.
Do you though, bitch?
So why are you using them as a prop?
And
why
you're
are you using them as a
sexual innuendo
as a punch
about your fucking children?
And I'm just like, your child's going to see that. Your child's going to see. You're literally exploiting your child right then and there. You asked your child to do this video. And she's so young, she didn't even know what the fuck she was doing. All you did was go.
Okay, I'm going to end up spending 3 hours dragging this bitch to the ground. So let's go ahead and let's move on to the next subject.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, bitch getting fucking heated now.
No, but I'm telling you, but that's where the offense.
It's the reality
of being called a pet, because it's real. It exists. It's happening now. Even in the case that was kind of controversial, nobody knew about the girl Molly. Remember that girl in the mall? And yeah, where we were talking about that. It's real. So when someone calls an adoptee of color, a transracial adoptee, a pet, it hurts. It will never not hurt. Even though it wasn't fucking targeted at me, it fucking hurt to hear that.
Well, let me formally apologize right now for my part in it, to both of you, to the entire transracial adoptee community. I understand now that was wrong. And like I said, I will be removing my comment because that is not something that I would like to perpetuate.
Thank you.
Period.
I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Joanna, do you have anything to say about this subject before we move on?
So I have to go the whole gotcha day thing. Okay. So my parents, we never celebrated. I knew the day I came over from Korea. We never celebrated it. We called it my airplane day because that was the day I came over on an airplane. However, there are a lot of adoptees, and I see this a lot because when I first started looking into groups on Facebook about adoptees, of adoptees and stuff, there was a lot of hate towards adoption, and I only knew my story. So I was very biased. It was a very, and I have learned and I listened, and it took a little bit, but I went into groups of other adoptees who were adopted from Korea, and I saw their stories, and I'm like, oh, there is truth to this. This isn't just like these people are, put in that situation, or they're just making things up. Like, there is truth to this. And Korea, that is a whole other ball game of situation right there. Because at one point they were the only country you did not have. They were one of the only countries you did not have to go over to get the child yourself. They had people who brought them to you, which is how I was brought over. And I forget the full total, but at one point, there's like 200,000 of us, if not more. There's a lot of us. There's a lot of us. And we became a business. And the point, like, and I could be wrong on my number, so please do not quote me on that for anyone that is watching this.
So, just to interject real quick, would you almost call it more like child trafficking than adoption?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. Because there were children who were taken from their homes and their parents didn't know what happened to them. There were children who were taken from the hospital, mom didn't know what happened to them. There were children we're talking like and this is going slightly off topic, but not quite. The situation that is going on in Texas, the situation that's going on all these states with these bills and these heartbeat bills and stuff. No, that, like, I'm standing on a soapbox right now, but it scares the shit out of me because what's going to end up happening is it's going to be a motherfucking business. It's already a fucking business in the United States. It's already a fucking business in other countries. It's going to get worse because they're not going to get the supply. They're going to have to find it. There was a YouTuber last year, the year before, or maybe in 2018, Mika Stauffer, who rehomed a child that she was looking for because she wanted a special needs child. So she got a special needs child from China and then rehomed him.
I remember that.
And then she rehomed him. Yes. And she rehomed him. And he was young because he was diagnosed with autism. And he was under therapies and this, that, whatever. And according to her, they couldn't handle it anymore. I'm sorry, what? You went on Facebook looking for a special needs child. And then it came out that she was on her shit again. And that they were looking again for a special. And she's in there, we didn't do it for views. We didn't do it for this. We didn't do it for that. And if you didn't do it for views, why is every video that you ever had with him gone? Why did you erase him from your family from the internet? Why? Now, granted, we all know that not everything is erased when it's erased from the internet. However, it's not there. He's no longer mentioned. He's like the pet that you got for Christmas and then poof, went away.
Let me just say this real quick, just because we all know that kids on the spectrum is something that is close to my heart. How do I put this? Don't fucking ask for a fucking special needs child if you cannot fucking handle one.
Yep.
And the fucking audacity
Mm-hmm.
of you to sit there. Not only this child was traumatized once by being adopted, but then you said, oh, I can't handle him. And you went ahead and you threw him away like fucking garbage. Fuck you and fuck your entire fucking line of fucking ancestors, you dumb, worthless fucking cunt. Because kids on the fucking spectrum are fucking people too.
Yep.
It was the most disgusting, one of the most disgusting things I'd ever seen.
Look, Joanna, you're gonna have to tell me more about that because
it was awful.
No. Both y'all, any information you have, please go ahead.
Fucking
because I'm already ready to burn shit to the ground. I'm gonna take that bitch with me.
It was, and there was the videos on YouTube already showed that there was abuse towards him. And
Because
then,
of course.
yes, and then that happened, and they made this video, and there was a crocodile tears about how he's and they like everyone wondered what happened to the kid because there was no mention about who he was with or how they found the family or anything like that, and they said that he was with people who could help and who could do the therapies and all of this, and I'm like, you're monetizing this shit on YouTube. What the fuck? I know you're making a shit ton of money off of this monetization. That's what you did it for. You do it to help it for a child because you wanted a child. You did it for clout. I don't care what you say. You did it for clout. And that shit that happens way more than you can even imagine. And then on top of it, when you have transracial adoptees who are international and their parents don't get them naturalized, and this is previous because in 2000 anyone after that who was under the age of 18 was technically considered, I don't know what paperwork had to be done, was then grandfathered in, but anyone who was an adult, if your parent didn't do it to you, didn't get you naturalized as a citizen, now you're up for deportation. And there's an adoptee. His name is Adam Crasper. Sorry. And he was deported, and they're like him. But he was the one that that ended up people trying to fight for him to stay. And all because of the situation he was put in by his adopted parents. And then he ended up being deported. And there are other adoptees who I will not name. I only named him because his situation, his story is out there. There's a Vice News video on him. So I will use his name. I won't name the other ones that I know who were deported. All because of situations that their adopted families or the era they lived in, their environment, all of that. And because they weren't put into naturalized, they were deported.
That's absolutely fucking horrible.
So
That
let's
is
add more
absolutely
trauma.
fucking horrible. Right. It's let's rip a child from their culture, from their uh from their heritage, make them grow up in something completely different.
Yep.
And then essentially throw them back.
Yeah. And without anything, you don't know the language. I don't know I have tried and I am still trying. I cannot get a hold of the language. But you don't know the language. You don't know anybody there. Because it's not like someone who's deported who came over who still has family there that they know. Like, for example, Elio Gonzalez. He came from Cuba, but he still had family there when he went back. We don't have that. We don't know them.
Nope, especially if it's closed. We don't know shit.
Yep. And unfortunately,
and there's no way to find out.
No, and I did a birth family search, and it's up to the parent. I don't know her name. My birth father probably doesn't even know I exist.
Right.
But I don't know her name. I don't know the family's name. So I can't go over there and be like, hey, here I am. It's up to her. Because I did my search. I found her. Now it's in her court.
So I just want to kind of switch gears just for a second. So there are people now who are identifying as transracial, which is originally what made Joanna message me and be like, can we fucking talk about this, please? Because I'm going to lose my shit. And I was ready to lose my shit at the time, too. So there are white people who are claiming to be transracial, whether they believe that they're black, they believe that they're Korean, they believe that they're anything but fucking white, basically. I haven't seen any examples of people of color doing this. That's not, oh, there is. Okay. I was going to say, that's not saying that there's not, because people are fucking stupid and we are a walking infestation. But that essentially, now correct me if I'm wrong, ladies, that essentially erasure of transracial adoptees. They are taking a term that was specifically for adoptees who are of one race adopted to someone of an entirely different race and perverting it, just so they can feel fucking trendy. Essentially, let's call it what the fuck it is, because they have no understanding what it's like to be black, to be Korean, to be Asian, to be indigenous, whatever fucking race that they're fucking claiming to be. It's not like, I'm going to make it very fucking clear right now, it's not like transgender. It is not like transracial adoptees. It's not like any of that. It's
To
fucking
me,
stupid.
it is the ultimate, I want to be oppressed so bad. It
Okay,
is
yeah.
the ultimate, I want to be oppressed. Rachel Dolezal wants to be oppressed. She realized that she was a basic white bitch from the Midwest. Ain't shit you can do except for be another basic white bitch. So how could you not be basic? Let's be black. Let's be black. Let's get some oppression going. Let's get some attention going. I don't know what the fuck was going on in her fucking mind. She's a delusional person. And for her to come out and say, I just identify with being black. Bitch, you had everything. You benefit from this system. So what? You could have spent your life helping people who don't benefit for the system by not pretending. There are people out there who do that type of work, who are advocates. That's what an advocate is. That's what an accomplice is. That's what my mom is. She's a social worker. She does that. She specifically does that and works for underprivileged children. My dad also volunteers for this board called CASA, where you work with children who are in situations like that, specifically with children. There are things that you can do to help your fellow man, woman, non-binary, of any marginalized group, to get them up to that point without fucking turning into a fucking chameleon and being fake and a facade and a walking minstrel show. It's an act. It's disgusting. It's disgraceful. And for you to come in here and fucking take that away from us is disgusting. You just want attention. You want to be oppressed so bad that you're willing to pretend like you. Martina Big is one of them. She's one of the white people who identifies as black women. She wanted to be Barbie first, but then she got melanin injections in her skin. So now she's got these fake ass tits, and she's like, I don't know where she's from. She's from Europe somewhere. And she's just like, I just feel like, I identify with black women and I just want to be black. So I got the injections and now, hey, I get it. I get what it's like to be black now. She just thinks that by changing her skin and her hair and her eyes that she's black. There was a black girl on the Dr. Phil, and it seemed very like, but you've probably seen of this young girl.
Oh,
it was like,
yes.
I don't like black people. I think they're gross. I'm a white
white
girl. I'm pretty.
Baby.
And it's just like, girl, no.
Like, and she was a dark-skinned black woman.
She was as dark as me, and she had a gap as big as me, diastema. I'm like, baby girl, you are black. And what you're mad about is that you had to move from one neighborhood to the other neighborhood. You had to go from the suburbs to living in the city. That's what pissed you off.
What do you think is behind that thought process there? Of wanting to be a different race, so much so that you try to change the way you look. You start telling people that you're transracial. What do you think the thought process is?
What I went through as a black adoptee, was every night wishing that I would wake up with blonde hair and blue eyes. Why? Because I saw blonde hair, blue eyes. It was in the Disney princesses. It was with my mom, blonde hair, blue eyes. All of my family members, blonde hair, blue eyes. So I would go to bed being like, I'm going to wake up as a white girl because I wanted to fit in, because I wanted to look like my family. I wanted to feel like I belonged. A lot of us go through that. Or I would wake up and be like, I want my hair to be straight and not this 4C beast that I got under here. You know, you'd wake up.
Hold on, stop. We're not going to call it a beast.
Hey,
it's beautiful.
No, she's a beast. She's a beautiful, beautiful beast. I'm allowed to call my beast. She's a beast. Okay. She is a beast.
As long as you recognize that 4C.
I appreciate her now, but I appreciate the beast. I just know that the beast going to do what the beast going to do. Before I got on here, I tried to lay the beast down. The beast didn't want to do that. The beast said no.
My hair is
beast
not even 4C, and the shit does whatever it wants to do. That's why the fuck it's always in braids.
I have been, you know how long I've been trying to slick my hair down? My hair, the beast said, we ain't slicking.
Not today.
Not ever. Not even today. Not ever. Ever. So the beast has been conditioned, deep conditioned, oiled, and is now wrapped. But anyway, where was I? You got me talking about the beast. Oh, waking up and like wanting to think that that's something that transracial adoptees go through, of wanting to belong, wanting to fit in, wanting to be like our family. But for someone to think that, being transracial and like changing their race just to be the better person, I think they just realize that they're boring. I think they're bored. I think they realize that they're basic. They realize that they might not be able to contribute anything. They want attention. They're unseasoned. It's the jealousy of being unseasoned. I feel like it's just jealousy. I'm like, people of all nationalities and races can do amazing things. Let's just be real. You can contribute a lot and be iconic. You can be a trend for the good. You can be a trend for the bad. But you can succeed in the skin that you're in. And if you think that you can't and you have to become something else to get a foothold, what are you doing? I mean, like, seriously, for white people that are trying to be transitional, what part of you literally have everything do you not understand? What part of that do you not understand? That the Constitution.
But you know what they don't have?
Yeah.
A person of color's aesthetic.
Exactly. I'm just like,
that's one thing they've never been able to get by raping, murdering, and pillaging.
Right.
So then they wanted to go ahead and use plastic surgery to do it.
The fact of the matter is they can't handle the fact that their privilege does not allow them certain things. They can't handle the fact that we have badass fucking music. I'm like, white people have great fucking music too. They have some badass fucking music too. But you can't handle the fact that you aren't allowed to say the N-word. That you can't pull off box braids. That your hair isn't meant for that type of protective styling. Mark me. Y'all heard what I said. Type of protective styling. Because there are protective styles that are for Anglo-Saxon, white, European, Eurocentric hair that is meant for your hair. And there are protective styles that are specifically for textured hair. We're talking 3A and beyond. Right?
Period.
I mean, your hair looks absolutely amazing, Jess. It looks absolutely phenomenal, Jess. It is for you, Jess.
Yeah, y'all.
But Rachel Dolezal can't handle.
That's why I can have it.
But Rachel Dolezal can't handle the fact that you can do that, and she can't. She can't handle the fact that your hair was meant to wear that style, that is fitted to that style naturally. She can't handle that. She wants a piece of it, so she's gonna get it. She wants it.
I'm just gonna laugh when that shit fall out.
Yeah. Oh, there was a video on TikTok of this girl who got box braids and then ended up having to shave her head, and you can still see the fucking the parts on her head. I just sat there just sipping. I was like, didn't we tell you? Didn't we tell you? No? Okay.
That's why I'm not telling them no more.
I know. I'm not telling them no more.
Let your shit fall out.
Yeah, no, I was
Joanna?
at Burning Man, and at Burning Man they tell you because of the alkaline and in the dust, it's not good for your hair. So they say wear your hair in braids. Now me being black, obviously I'm like, hell yeah, I'm gonna wear my hair in some fucking braids, and I had them cornrowed and put some cool goddess lock extensions in, and I look fierce in the desert. I look fierce as fuck. However, my white friend got box braids done. And I was like, hey, yo, girl, who did those box braids? She's like, I asked a black stylist if it was okay, what would be the best way to wear my hair in the desert. I said, oh, so you literally went to her and you asked her, you said, I'm going to the desert. There's alkaline, blah, blah, blah. What would be the best way to do my hair? And she told you box braids?
She didn't like you.
And she's like, yep. And I said, okay. I said, I'm just going to let you know, girl, that your hair might fall out. And if I see you wearing your hair like this outside of Burning Man, I'm going to eat you. I'm going to eat you. Because I'm just like, I can understand. It's not my favorite. I don't like it. I can understand in the desert. Because it's a week and people's hair literally falls out from the fucking playa. It will.
Why not put it in like some Dutch braids?
Some people wear the Dutch braids. And I'm like, wear the Dutch braids. They even have hair braiding on playa. But she wanted to go and get the box braids and done. And I was just like, whatever, bitch. I'm just like, if your hair's falling, you fall out.
Who wants to take your money?
Yeah, she found someone who wanted to take her fucking money. And I said, you know what? At least you paid a black stylist to fucking do it. She did the damn thing. And if your hair fucking falls out, it's not on the stylist. It's on you. Because I'm like, you're going to have a hell of a hard time taking that shit out. Like, if you have any shit left. Like,
all right, Joanna, what are your thoughts?
Oh, it definitely erases. It's like an erasure of transracial adoptees. And I honestly have to wonder if the people who use the term transracial even understand that that is already a term. Like, there were people when this was going on that were like, that's not a thing. That's not a thing. Transracial is not a thing. And I was like, hold up. Hold on. Yes, it is. Not in this way. I'm transracial. Because I'm Korean, I'm Asian, and my parents are white. I am transracial. And then I got a few, oh, yeah, it's already a thing. They're taking it and twisting it and turning it into this show. And to be honest, with people who, with those who in the LGBTQ community and everything, I don't see that as attention. That is who they are. If you have trans, you have, non-binary, that is who they are. That is how they feel they are. That is who they are. And there are studies on the trans community and their brain and how a trans man, their brain is more like a man. A trans woman, their brain is more like a woman. But you don't have that when it comes to what ethnicity, what race you are. I don't know anybody, and just like Jesse, when I was growing up, I tried so hard. I would pray that I woke up looking like my mom and dad because I wanted to look like my parents because I saw my best friend who looked like their parents, and they knew what the future held. I didn't. I didn't know what my future held. I didn't know what I was going to look like when I was 7 years old and I see my friends had an idea of what their future held. I didn't know what my future held in my looks or, what my health history is or what this is or what that is. But you can't sit there and say, "Oh, I feel white." Or I feel this or I feel like that. No, I was raised in a white family, and I was called a Twinkie lovingly. I don't like that term now as an adult, but as a kid, I didn't understand the horrible implications of it. But I was called a Twinkie because they're yellow on the outside, white on the inside.
I need names. Any names, addresses, social security numbers?
But also,
Twinkie. What the
I called
fuck?
myself that. But you
Jesus.
have to remember, I called myself that.
I mean, I
Because
called myself an Oreo, so yeah, okay.
yeah,
I get it. I get it.
I called myself that. And so that was that idea of like this is because I was fitting in with the people that were around me. I was fitting in with like they were my friends. I and so and I because I called myself that, I made it okay for them to call me that.
Right.
And now as an adult, I don't. And I speak out against it. And when I see people use it, I have to question, why are you using that term? Because that's not a note. Like, you have to understand there's other implications to that term. But like, for a long time, really thought about double eyelid surgery because I got the monolids. Nothing, there's no crease. Nothing. I've learned how to do my makeup. I don't have it right on me now. I've learned how to do my makeup, but for a very long time, even up to when I started dating my husband, even before we got engaged, I was very, very serious about getting double eyelid surgery. Not because I wanted to look white, not because I felt I was white, but because it was that beauty standard.
Yeah, you wanted to conform to white beauty standards.
Yes. Yes. And I knew it wasn't going to change who I was. I knew I was still going to be Asian, even if I got the surgery done. But I didn't have, but that situation versus going and getting injections so that you can have color on your, that's not a suntan that's going to fade. Or, you know, no, you can't do that. Or that's that's first of all erasing their culture now because they're taking on some whole other different thing that's not something you can do. Because you can't.
You can't.
And you can't. And then in the Rachel Dolezal situation, you are taking the place for somebody who is. You are taking the place because she went and took a spot from somebody who is.
Exactly.
She was on the board and all of this and all of that. She took somebody who is living that life, who has lived that life their whole life. But because she decided she wanted to do it, and there was her privilege.
Yep.
Even though she was fronting as, that was still her privilege that she had.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's here's my thing. I quote RuPaul a lot, and I say, if you can't love yourself, how in the hell are you gonna love somebody else?
Amen.
Just to clarify for anybody watching, you can, being transgender, being LGBT, any part of the LGBTQ community, you cannot choose. It's not a choice. Claiming that you look like you came out of a fucking mayo packet and claiming that you're black or doing that stupid goddamn fox eye trend and claiming that you're fucking East Asian, I'm going to need you to sit down on a fucking dildo filled with rusty fucking nails and no lube. That is a choice, and that is also erasure. And not only are you, as Joanna said, erasing your own culture, erasing the culture that you're trying to appropriate, you're also contributing to the erasure of transracial adoptees. You are taking their term, title, I'm not really sure what you would call it, and perverting it into something that doesn't belong to you. Just like your dream race's culture. It's not yours.
And man, we're gonna go back a few months. There's this girl, Miss Fanny is what I like to call her, because her name is Fannie Mae on TikTok. Miss Fanny, who's Irish, but promenades around as Black Barbie. She tans her skin, and she calls herself Black Barbie, and she dresses in suggestive clothing, whatever. You can wear whatever. I don't give a fuck. But what she's doing is fetishizing Black women. So in claiming that she's transracial, even though she's Irish and speaks in colonized AAVE, and this was funny, said that all Black people have melanoma. When I said melanin, and she said melanoma. When I tell you I fell on the fucking floor, I mean I fell on the fucking floor. I was like, are you fuck? I said, for someone who claims to be Black, you sure don't know shit about it. If you think we all have melanoma.
No, bitch, you need to understand the only one in this conversation that has melanoma is you. With
Right.
your fucking fake tanning ass.
That's what I said to her. I said, you are well on your way to being the spokesperson for melanoma. And she's like, all Black women have melanoma. And I was like, you fuck. I fell the fuck down. But the fact of the matter, there are a bunch of them. They are on in these TikTok streets. They're Irish girls. And while there are Black people in Ireland, in the UK, all over the fucking place, they are obsessed with Black women. So what they will do is they will tan, and then they will bronze themselves. Then they'll wear wigs that RuPaul would drag through the fucking mud. Like just awful shake and go fucking Party City looking wigs. And then call themselves Beyonce and promenade and act like Black girls would and wear these outfits and they're basically sexualizing us by pretending to be us. And the amount of comments of support that these fuckers are getting, and you're sexy, you're so hot, I want to fuck you, is disgusting. And it's just like, you want to be us, but you don't know what it's like to be us. And if you wanted to be us, you would never, ever do something like that. First of all, you would never overtly sexualize yourself like that. There's sex
Black
work,
women have been
because there's sex work and you do your thing and you do that, but you are hyper sexualizing us. And that is not what we are about. We are all about embracing our sexuality, our femininity, our non-binary, our masculinity, and all our androgyny, all of that. We can all be that. But when you hypersexualize something that you are not, that's going to become
fetishization.
That's fetishization. And nope, that's a different story. That's completely different. Anyway, it has nothing to do with adoptees. It's just a thing. But anyway, but yeah, no. This shit is it's fucked up. Fucked up. And these it's gross. Anyway.
Look, I will never understand these people. Did I like my hair growing up? Absolutely fucking not, because I was raised by a white mom, so I had no idea how to take care of it. I didn't understand protective styles. I was a whole 20 something years old before I figured out what the fuck a silk pillowcase was for.
Oh,
You
I got
know?
abandoned. I got abandoned on my hair journey.
Yeah.
I
Like
got
everything
no, like
I've learned, I did it myself. My mom still has no idea about
okay.
black
I
hair.
need to give my mom her flowers because the big viral video that I have on my TikTok is absolutely true. My mom had no idea what the fuck she was doing, so she took me to an all black studio. First thing she does, she brings me into that fucking place, sets me down on the counter. There's all black women in there, all black women. She sets me down on the counter and says, "Help me, I'm an ignorant Caucasian woman." The whole fucking studio busts out laughing, and my mom's like, "Yes, laugh at me. I have no fucking idea." Because there wasn't YouTube. We still had yellow pages. It was the 90s.
Right.
Yellow pages. You know how they used to do perms? If you wanted to do your perm at home, you had a cassette tape. A cassette tape that came with the perm kit and a book and the gloves and one of those long popsicle sticks. And my mom,
watch out when it starts burning.
You had to stop and rewind. Like, yes. Now I have to give my mom her flowers. She learned how to do my hair from the time that I was 2 all the way up until I was about 10. She did my hair because I went and I got a lock journey because my mom put the whole ultimatum on me. Either you get locks or I shave your head, because she was tired of doing my hair. She was tired of me screaming. She's tired of that. And so
your head.
I got locks. And I had locks
twice.
I had locks for 5 years, and my mom retwisted them for me. She learned how to do it, and I had some damn good looking locks. My locks look fucking amazing. And then the reason why I cut them was, one, because I was a dancer, and they want your hair in a bun, and my mom would make a bun out of my locks, but that was one I wanted to dance. I either had to cut my hair or I couldn't be on the competition team. And I wanted to be on the competition team. I was on the competition team for 7 years and I danced for 14. So yeah, that happened. And then when I started getting relaxers again, when I turned 11 and I was in middle school, my mom abandoned me on my hair. And she's like, "Okay, you got to pay attention at the hair studio now, because you're going to have to do this now."
No.
Yep. So I was that child, that black girl who had the worst fucking hair. My hair was the worst. And it looked great when I came fresh out of the studio, but because I was a dancer, I would sweat my perm out and I didn't know how to fucking press it. I used too much heat. Damn, I broke off my hair so bad one time. Like, literally abandoned me at 11. And I'm 28 now. And once I turned 18, my last perm I did on my hair was prom, was the day before prom. It was the last time I did it. After that, I was like, I let all the perm bit fall off and I just grew out my natural hair. I used to have this fucking massive fro, and then I shaved the sides, and then I shaved my head, and then I shaved the side, because it's a beast. It's a beast, I love the beast. It's a lot to manage. But like hair, they can abandon you on your fucking hair. And that's a huge part of being black, is our hair. And I was like, Mom. And like, granted, I've talked to her since then about it, but I've just been like, Mom, one of the big fuck ups you ever did was you abandoned me on my hair.
Absolutely.
It was a big fuck up. And she's like, "You're right, I suck." And I'm like, "Yeah, you suck." Luckily, luckily I learned.
So
luckily, she's a champ.
I'm gonna ask you guys one more question, before we go ahead and hop off, because it is starting to get late, and a bitch gotta take off her makeup, because man, I'm not sleeping in this shit. I don't want white people's skin. Knowing what you know now, and this is gonna get a little bit deep. What is something that you would tell your younger self as far as working through that identity crisis of being a transracial adoptee? Or what is something that you think any transracial adoptee that might be listening should hear? I know. I do this every time. I'm not sorry at all.
How dare you?
Go ahead, Joe.
Oh gosh. Probably for my younger self, it would be don't stop don't stop learning about your culture, but understand that you are you and you are not defined by your birth parents or your mom and dad and your family. Because my identity crisis growing up hit around the time of puberty. So on top of learning that I have all these hormones going on in my body that I'm trying to figure out, I'm also trying to figure out who the hell I am. Still trying to learn who the hell I am. But I think the biggest thing is that knowing what I know now, especially who especially after this year and trying to find my birth mom and that situation, it's definitely you are not defined. Learn your culture, learn about, try to make the food, find classes, do what you can, continue to get the education on where you come from. But your family, who the family is, your unknown family, that does not define you. You are you because I am still fucking learning that.
Absolutely. I think that's important for anybody to hear. Don't define yourself by who your parents are. Don't let anything define you other than you. Jesse, what about you?
Oh man, wow. No, you're absolutely right, Joanna. I just want to say that it's a journey. It's a lifelong journey for anyone, whether you're an adoptee or not. But for an adoptee, knowing what we know and knowing what we don't know, it's a journey to really figure out who we are and how we want to navigate this life. And so, if I was going to talk to my younger self, one of the big things that I would tell my younger self is, regardless of your parents, regardless of the culture that you grew up in, your experience is a Black experience, and no one can tell you what it is and what it isn't. Whether you grew up with white privilege, more privilege than anything, your experience is still a Black experience. You will still deal with racism. You will still deal with racism, not just within the walls of your home, but in your neighborhood when you walk down the street. No matter what, it may not be as blatant and bold, but it's still there. And your experience is still valid when you grow up and you start to talk about it and become who you are. Another thing I'll tell myself is, geez, whoa, what would I tell myself? There are a lot of things I would tell myself. Don't be stupid. But um knowing what I know now, I guess I would tell myself to recognize that your mom and dad did try to introduce you to your culture and to embrace it and not feel like you are separate and that you are different and it's bad and it's a negative thing. It's okay to be different. Embrace it. Go for it. Get out there. Because that's one thing I didn't do is I was against it. I pushed against it. And I feel like that could have been truly beneficial for me had I done that, you know? So that's another thing I would say. And there was a second part to the question, right? Wasn't there?
No, just what would you tell your younger
Oh, okay.
self, or what would you tell someone who is going through this struggle that might be watching?
Oh, okay. Gotcha. I think I did it. I think I did it.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
I appreciate you ladies coming on so much. I learned a ton. I definitely got a different perspective. I hope everybody watching did as well. I'm a little upset. I've known Joanna for like 3 years. And this the most that she's like gone ahead and opened up and talked about herself. Like, I'm a little salty. Like, we're gonna have to talk about that after the live. Like, damn. But seriously, thank you guys so much. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna close this out. Y'all stick around for a little bit. Afterwards, we'll talk backstage. No kiki it. That's how we always do. Everybody, thank you so much for watching. I hope that this gave you perspective into something that you may not understand or may not have experienced, or something that you do have experienced, but maybe not understood. I think getting these perspectives is very important. We've now had 2 cats make a special appearance on tonight's episode. I appreciate it. Hey, pussies. Y'all have a good night. And like I said earlier, if you can't love yourself, how in the hell you gonna love somebody else? Can I get an amen, Jessica Lee?
Amen.
There we go. All right, good night, and don't be a dick.
Woo woo.